for the last several weeks. And what we are wanting to do, what we're doing here with the Healthy Mind, is bringing us into the light. So, again, I want to welcome everyone to the Healthy Mind. And as we're getting going here, we're going over communication. And if you have any comments or any thoughts, please put it in the comment so I can read it. So then we can get on board and answer all the questions that you would like to ask. Of course, you can always share this later. You can record it later. You can visit later. You can do anything you want later with it, and hopefully share it and listen to it and have a comment or two about what we're talking about. Because when it comes to communication, we are being misinterpreted, and that has been shown in my starting on Monday when we were talking about how we are relating to things that are going on. And again, I like to state why this all started. Doing this information of communication, we are listening to things that's bothering us. So let's just put that up here. Communication. We are being disturbed with the things that we are hearing and that we're going through. And a lot of this, so today I'm going to be talking about emotions. And then I'm going to refer to emotional. We have been taught that having emotions is often bad, and some people now are reflecting on that having emotions is good. Learning how to express your emotions absolutely is amazing, and that's also good. But being emotional. So when you talk about, I'm not going to get into the brain science because I think the reason why we're being misinterpreted because I think we're confusing our emotions with being emotional. Emotions, and let's put this down a little bit. Emotions, emotional. And I'm actually going to put up a big word here because I really think this is going to fall back into where I think our problem is. And I'm going to put this right in the middle. And if you see it, I'm not going to say it because we're going to get there. So, and the word, I forgot I'm doing on a podcast, but in the middle of the board, we have ego. Ego. And we'll get into ego. So emotions, we know there's different emotions, and there's anger, sadness, happy, joy, love, right? Emotional is brain. That's brain activity. Emotions is something you feel. Right? Emotional is brain activity. That's where the interpretation comes in. And if you are interpreting things emotional, that means your brain is reacting to X, right? And we have to put X because X is the variable to implement anything, right? So, and then if you are not understanding X, then it's X times 2, right? Then it's X times 2. And that is where the trouble comes in with communication. Good morning, good morning. I'd like to wave to everyone who's on Instagram. If you have any questions, please put it in the comment box. If you have any questions on Facebook or Instagram. So when it comes to emotional, it is the X, and that is the feelings of X, right? So you have this is your X variable, because your X variable could be anything when it comes to experience, education, environment. Remember those 5 E's I talked about, those senses I talked about. Then it goes back into all of life is vibrations. It's about our atomic structure. And in our atomic structures, we have electrons, we have protons. And then we have out in the subatomical field, we have what you call quarks. But let's go back into electrons and protons. I'm going to do this real simple science. And simple science states that we have an energy force that's always being applied between electrons and protons, and they're the primary source of our atomic structure. And then we have subatomic structure, which is quarks. Now, when we are doing our exercises and our meditations and our prayers and the things that generates more positive within our body, meaning vibration, you are affecting the atoms in your body, and that goes into electrons and protons. If you are creating a higher charge in the electrons, then you're creating a higher electronic field of negativity within the body. This is caused by ego. Ego is the mediator between consciousness and unconsciousness. Between consciousness and unconsciousness, between consciousness and unconsciousness is ego. And if your ego is trying to separate you from your transcendence, meaning going up. Okay, so let me put my little guy here. Remember that we are trying to transcend because we're antennas in all directions. We're trying to transcend in all directions because we're receiving and transmitting. Remember communication, and this is the reason why it seems like it's going. Here's what you have to understand about emotions and emotional. It's through communication. Communication is about transmitting and transferring, receiving, right? And if you don't understand what emotions is and what it is emotional, which is through the brain, and the brain is the X variable, and if not understanding, this is no understanding, then it's times 2. Then it becomes a higher force. And in that higher force drives a chemical imbalance. Once it's times, or anything over here, not understanding it's an unbalanced structure. Because we talked about balance. And we know that it's all vibration, and vibration vibrates the atoms in the bodies, and then we talk about the electrons and protons. So this is where it comes to pain, and when it comes to pain, and when we talk about our experience in education and environment, when we are communicating, we are moving through this interpretation of ego. And ego holds you into a previous state of information. Ego holds you into a previous state of information. And the reason why that is because it is the unconscious, and this goes back to what I talked about yesterday. The unconscious, remember the unconscious is 80% of your information, what you're doing now, and in communications, 90% internal, and Most of that, this is, so 80% of what your unconsciousness is comes between age between 0 and 8. 90% of communications all internal. 92% of that is driving your life from the unconsciousness if you don't have understanding. That's why this is so important. This is why ego is so strong. You know, if you are in present moment, and a lot of the teachings, are, whether it be Kemetic sciences or the other philosophies of being present, the present situation, to be present, you don't have pain. You don't have fear. Trauma does not exist in the now. Trauma reminds you of what was. So when we hear words that's being communicated, it means it's being driven to us. It is being explained to us that it is holding us in a trauma state. And in the trauma state, we are losing ourselves because we cannot transcend the reception and transfer of what's going on. So we have having difficulties receiving all of the good stuff that we are internally. What trauma does, what pain does, what fear does, if you don't clear it, it holds you into a past state. It does not allow you to move forward. So ego could be acronym. It could be erasing growth opportunity, edging God out. Ego is trying to control the conscious state in a subconscious action, which causes less vibration in the body, where you do not transcend, you do not transmit positive. You do not and then we know in positive is health. We know in lack of positivity is sickness. We know people can be psychosomatic in their sickness. We know we're doing a great job of understanding how I do this so you can understand how you can heal the healthy mind. Going over understanding your brain, understanding how the vibrations can block your body into not healing itself. You remember how much anxiety closes off blood structures. It slows down blood. If blood doesn't flow, it constricts the body. It restricts the body. Healing your body is allowed for you to open up your body. And that's important. That's why we are doing this communication. So ego's huge. And to come together with ego is to understand how ego is being applied on each moment. We listen through ego and we interpret through ego. Not many of us understand that, because that is where it holds us a lot, where it changes our brain. So if you understand that, if I'm saying, well, listen to this, watch this. I'm going to say the word birthday. What did you immediately think of? Birthday. Either your birthday, a birthday you've had, a birthday someone you know. So it took you away from what we're talking about right now. It took you out of this. So whatever you remembered, ego took you away from your present. So how do you change that? Right, Dr. Paul? How do you change that? You change that by allowing the word to not direct you or affect you. Birthday. It did it again. Listen to the word, apply it to the now, not to what it isn't. I don't have a birthday. I had one. I know someone coming up with one, and all words do that. So that's why when the news that's reporting on so many things unhealthy, it takes you away from your present state. And it's trying to do that so we would think that news helps us convey something or gives us information. No, it's trying to control you. Information is convey. Information. So if you're receiving something, even now, remember, when I'm doing this, I just want you to receive. I don't want to convert you. That's not what I'm trying to do. I just want you to receive the information. Receive the information on the healthy mind and what communication is and how interpretation is affecting you. Is it understanding your emotions are good. Expressing your emotions are good. Releasing your emotions are good, right? Not understanding your emotional reaction is bad. If you don't understand it, then it's the variable times 2. And if it's the variable times 2, then it affects your receiving and transmitting. And then if it comes down to vibrations, it is affecting your atoms, which is affecting your electrons and your protons. Your electrons, if it's negative, it holds a negative charge. Remember, the negative charge that's moving forward in subatomical fields keeps creating higher charges, and then it rises, and then the proton decreases, which then it binds it to the different quarks, because quarks, we know we have not, well, quarks is a subatomical a measure of energy, so, and it goes below the electrons, but anyway, it becomes harder to pull apart, and that's what we do know, and that's what's going on in your body. And in that subatomical structure, in that subatomical cellular structure, is what we're trying to free up, so we can have what you call free particles that allows it to roam and to transmit and to receive inside the cellular structure. Inside the cellular structure, there's a whole other universe, and you are the control of that universe. You are the control of that universe. And in that universe, you are causing your explosions to be either a disruptive explosion or a growth explosion. Because we're always moving forward, except for egos allowing you to live in reflective mode. Birthday. Thought of that. And you can practice that by looking at certain things and explaining things to yourself, and see if you're explaining things in a present or in a previous thing that you were taught, education, or things that you refer to through experience, or things that you want it to be through expectation, right? And of course, then we have the other part. We have energy, right? So we have those 5 E's. We have those things that are either blocking us or freeing us. I just recently, it's almost time, but I just recently published a book. It's called Out of the Shadows and Into the Black. You can get it on Amazon and everything. And I wanted to read you something, because when we talk about emotions, and this book is an emotional book. It's a written poetry, but you can get it. But I just want to read you something real quick. And I did it apart, so let me take off my glasses. It says, "The dirt got me killed." I want you to listen to it, and I want to see where it is. The dirt got me killed. I was digging in the dirt with freedom as a thought. My hands shined with Tiffany and Company and De Beers, etc. My back was bleeding as my head sweat. I was digging in the dirt with freedom as my thought. As the tunnel was taking shape, many were being showered. I was digging in the dirt with freedom as my thought, while my mother was being raped so I can escape to the north. I was digging in the dirt with freedom as my thought. The man holding the clipboard had my time card. I was digging then, but now I know I was never free until I stopped digging and stood up for freedom. Now, we write poetry, we write stories, we paint, we do a lot of things about expression, and it's to remind us, but not to relive us, so we stay there. So, tomorrow I'm going to go over consciousness, and we're going to continue on communication. I want you to stay happy, stay safe, and stay free, right? I want you to do your meditation, I want you to do your prayers, and I want you to do your exercises. That helps with your subatomical level, your atoms, your cells, your vibration, and work on your communication with the 90% of internal. Work on what you are, how you're interpreting to it. Understanding if your interpretations is from something you've gone through or is going through. Okay? Understanding the value. Understanding if you don't understand something, you're times two. How do a person remain in the now and constant? So that's we remain now by understanding our ego thought process. Understanding, like, am I referring to something as this moment? If you refer to something, it's in the past. If you have no reference, then it's now. Right. If you have no reference, then it's in the now. You cannot have pain in a moment. When you're present, there is no pain. Because pain, once it's felt, it's already gone. So to remember even pain, it's something from a previous. To remember trauma is something that already happened. So it's trying to stamp you in a segment of time, and it's holding poison within the body. It's holding poison within the body. Understand your emotions, they're good. Understand what ego is doing to you and how it's reflecting to you. Okay? See you tomorrow, 7 a.m., Healthy Mind, and I'm Dr. Paul. Thank you for visiting with me.